So we are rolling.
We are rolling. That's a good way to start.
Okay.
Just start like that.
Yeah,
fantastic. Welcome everyone to another rendition of Hombu Dojo podcasts with myself, Ross, here with Rue, and very special guest, David Pope Sensei.
David Pope Sensei 8th Dan.
All the way from Alabama.
First question for
Sweet
you.
home Alabama.
Do you know Forrest Gump?
I know the movie.
Okay, but you never met him.
Never met him.
Okay. That's the only thing I know about Alabama. That's where Forrest Gump was from.
There you go.
A true look at Alabama. No, I'm just
So you've been here. This is your first week, your weekend.
Yes.
How are you finding Dublin?
Oh, I like it.
Not that you can see much of it just now, to be fair.
Yeah, from my trips back and forth from the room to the dojo.
It is it's a nice area.
I've learned two paths. But no, today I took a walk up Rathmines
Yeah.
and went all the way into town till it ended. You know,
Excellent.
at T's there at the very end. And so I went up there, and then I on the way back, I hit a deli and also a fish and chips place. So
Very good.
yeah,
Very good.
fish and chips
which
were
one was it?
delicious.
There you
Do you
go.
remember the name of the fish and chip
It was
shop?
called Traditional.
Traditional Fish. Oh, on Camden Street, I think.
There you go.
Okay, nice.
It must be good if Rue knows them off by heart.
That was really good. I had the cod and chips.
And
So.
maybe it was McGuinness's. What is it? Small place with red on the outside?
No, it was just a big picture window walking in, and but it sat right on the main road
Yeah.
facing Rathmines.
So you had some classic fish and chips.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was
Very
really.
good.
I couldn't even eat all of it, so I've
Yeah.
still got more to go home to.
Excellent. Very good.
So, yes, David Pope Sensei is here on the internship. What?
It's a very unique internship, I have to say, because
Yeah.
you're so senior to everyone here.
It's a nice way of saying it, wasn't it?
Like, no, just an experience and everything like that. Like you're not. I don't think you're here to improve your karate, so to speak. Right? Are you here? Are you here to improve your karate, or is it more?
Of course, I mean, yeah, I am, but that's not really the purpose. I mean, I can learn things from Scott when he comes over, and I have time to work on them, that sort of thing. So I could do that without the visit, but just to invest myself, because I want to learn about the dojo and HDKI as a whole, and this is the best way to do it.
Great.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yes.
So that's what you're hoping to get out of the experience.
Yeah, well, I wrote down for Scott, of course, personal improvement, which is instruction,
Yeah.
but also my instruction to improve on my teaching, because it makes it more versatile.
Indeed.
And then conditioning, and that's happening rapidly.
Physical conditioning.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
feeling fitter already?
Well, like I told Kevin in the thing, I said, I'm trying to do this with a 67-year-old body.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
Yeah.
Well, anyone can do it, and you do it at your own pace, and you push yourself however much you think you need to, or depending on what you want to get out of it, that's what you'll do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I already personally see a shift in how I think we are reacting to you being here as an intern, because like before this, with the exception of Kevin, everyone's been quite young, like Ishmael, Juan, Valen, like these people are all young in their 20s, early 30s or whatever.
Actually, I think all but three interns have been in their 20s. There was Pallavi, Kevin, and now David Pope Sensei.
Yeah. And I could definitely see how normally we push the physicality of training a lot more, but now it's shifted to a little bit more technical, but much more about how the teaching happens and stuff. I think is what we're focusing on a little bit more. So they've still got a few weeks to go and we'll see how it shapes up. But yeah, well, I'm enjoying having you assisting classes and stuff. I think the kids are enjoying having a new
thank you.
face.
Yeah,
It's been very nice.
I enjoy it.
Have they been respectful?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Threat of death from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always that little leverage that we have. But they're good kids. I mean, you've got some really talented, I don't even want to say athletic, although I'm sure several are, but they're just very focused. The two boys up at the
David
place
Lloyd's.
we went to that took that long walk, and then the little girl yesterday was just unbelievable.
Anyone I know? Who are you talking about?
Grace, Charlie, and Darren. Those are the three
Nice.
specific ones.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think if we've been lucky because a few of the classes just now with everything going on, the COVID and everything like that, have been quiet. So David Lloyd, I have a packed beginners class in there, like full at capacity, with completely new beginners. But then the second hour, which used to be full of sort of mid to high grade kids, has now shrunk to just Darren and Charlie, who are happened. And the reason it's just them two is because they're both very focused and training exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
And it's very lucky because then you can this is how it is all the time. Don't worry about any of the other kids that come in. These two are the standard,
Yeah.
And I think yesterday we had in one class it was Heber, who's still a relative beginner, but he's been at it for a few years, and when you get him by himself he focuses and does as he's told really well. But Grace and Marcus, Greenbelt Marcus,
Little Marcus.
little
Yeah,
Marcus. And those two
Is
are-
he showing up at David Lloyd?
No, he was
No.
at he comes on my Thursday classes now, but I know he was your student for a long time.
Yeah, the little green belt.
Yeah.
He's
That was
awesome, isn't he?
good.
They're very good.
good.
Yeah,
So
I love
we
that
had
guy.
Grace, Marcus, and Heber, which was a relatively small class, training up and down. So you're going, this is what it's always like. These are the kids, these kids that don't talk and just train, and you can tell them to fix something, they fix it straight away.
So what you're saying
That's
is
what the dojo's
what you're saying is the pandemic, the lockdown has kind of filtered out the kids who don't care as much.
I don't know if maybe that's part of it, but I'm saying that I've been very lucky when David's assisted in classes because he's only seen the best of the best so far.
Nice.
He hasn't seen some of the wilder ones, but
Yeah,
it's been good fun.
I used to say that, we have those students, we used to call it a 20-60-20.
Yeah.
Like if you have 100 kids and 20% are, top level and 60% are your normal, regular students.
Yeah.
And then 20% are the ones that really don't give a rip. And they just they're there because somebody's making them come.
Yeah.
Or they don't care what the results are. But anyway, sometimes people would tell, I've got these great students, da-da-da-da-da. And I say, those are the ones that make you really look good,
Yeah.
But really, you got to look at the 60% to see what your instruction is really like.
That's true.
And I think the kids within that 60% in the middle are the ones who are going to stick at it. Well, anybody might stick at it, but it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you quit after a couple of years, you're not a black belt,
Right.
right?
You're not. Like I can again. I think we've said this once or twice before, but I can count off the top of my head a list of people who growing up were much better than me at karate. And it's just I just stuck it out the longest.
It only
That's how you
gets
become the best.
worse.
That's it.
I've been at it. This is next month will be a full 48 years.
Of teaching?
Yeah, no,
Of training.
training.
of training.
Yeah.
And I have seen so many just prodigies,
Fall by the wayside.
and they're all gone.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, not all of them. There's probably, I can think of two people that I came up with that still do karate that I thought were really, phenomenal.
The conversations I've had with people is like, I wish I never gave up karate, and I'm like, well, yeah, you did. So
Yeah, it turns out that the people that last are the ones that are the best.
And I think we all go through that phase. Even the most, like me, I loved karate and I was so enthusiastic and very successful at a young age at karate. And even I had my moments where I was like, I'd rather just go out with my friends today rather than go training. And I think some parents fall into the trap of that where their kid says they don't want to go, so they let them not go. and they say, oh well, this is just like your football or your thing like that. The karate is incredibly hard for kids to do, so they will always choose the easier thing, always, despite the fact that when they show up to training they love it. Now there's some kids that show up to training and they hate it, and you can tell they hate it, and you feel sorry for them that they're being forced to come here, and that's like, yeah, it's a shame. But I think most of the time, kids who are, doesn't matter if they're good, not very athletic, or prodigies, there is a moment where they go, I don't want to do it. And as parents listening, never let your kid quit karate, man. It's one of the best things ever. Like, never. Like, I'm so happy that my dad pushed me through those tough years to still go training religiously every week. Because the people who got away with saying they didn't want to go and didn't show up, they now regret giving it up.
Well, I think 80% of people, when I'm meeting somebody new, I tell them I'm a karate instructor, and then 80% of people will go, oh, I did karate when I was a kid. Yeah, I got like a yellow belt and then I quit.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
that's the majority. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good thing
Excuse
for not like for children, adults, teenagers, everything in between. And man, it hurts when you see somebody who you can see the development, even like a personality development, like from going from a really shy, awkward kid who can't have a conversation to someone who can chat to you no problem. I mean, that's one of the best things I think karate does, is like that confidence boost. But then again, they get the confidence boost and they make a whole bunch of friends, and like, I'm going out with my friends instead. Catch 22.
Should be training with their friends. David Sensei.
Yes.
Why did you start karate?
Because I wanted the confidence, and I wanted to be able to protect myself. I was in the Army when I started,
I see.
and I got into kind of a not a fight, but a threatening situation with some other soldiers that was completely beyond my control. And there was like,
The enemy.
well, no, these were guys on our side. But I will say this.
Got into a threatening situation. A bunch of guys calling themselves the Viet Cong.
Well, actually, it was in Vietnam, and everybody had guns or machetes or whatever,
Yeah.
And there was a group of soldiers, and one of the guys from our unit smarted off to one of the guys in their unit. And I heard all this yelling and swearing and stuff going on outside my barracks. So I walk out, and I stepped out right in the middle of it. And so these guys were all arguing, about what was said or not said. And anyway, there was a Korean guy there who was a Korean soldier. There were Korean soldiers there. They were referred to as ROC, it's Republic of Korea. And they tried to pick on everybody but him. And I was aware that he was a black belt. And I thought, there's got to be a reason they didn't try to touch him, And he just stood there looking the whole time. I mean, he was out there when I got there.
That's cool.
And they never said a word to him. His English was as good as mine.
Yeah.
Do you think he had a black belt in Taekwondo, or was it?
No,
karate?
it was judo.
Oh.
Yeah, but they all studied Taekwondo because we'd see them out there working out.
Yeah.
We used to tease about that. They'd be yelling, ramen, kimchi, but not really. But that was our joke. I'm sure they were counting, in Korean. So, yeah. But
So what do you think?
but that inspired me.
Do you think
Yeah.
it was reputation, or do you think it was just he had that confidence, like
Just the confidence.
the vibe, like?
I don't think anybody knew. And maybe a couple of our guys knew because we worked with him. He was I worked in the postal unit. So it was a military post office. And so, but he was their representative in our unit.
That reminds me of a book I was reading. It was mentioned in Richard Amos's book, and it's called Bushido, The Soul of Japan. And it's quite a long-winded philosophical kind of treatise.
I read Richard's book.
Oh, you read Richard's book? Oh, yeah,
did.
but it was a book that Richard mentioned he was reading when he was in Japan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So his book is Chasing Bushido, and then he was talking about this book called Bushido, The Soul of Japan. Anyway, in it there's this quote, and it goes, it's talking about developing your manners through martial arts training, and it says whoever has, if there's a man with manners that are so polished and developed so that he's the most mannerly gent you can imagine, no ruffian can harm him or even approach him. So maybe that kind of that air of confidence that you have just standing around viewing this altercation, it's referred to as manners in the book, but it's confidence, it's rectitude.
There's a funny thing. I remember being in nightclubs back in Scotland and stuff, and when it would all kick off, if you were just the person sitting down with your drink watching it, you'd always be left alone. Like, and I think it is just that calmness when chaos is brewing. People do subconsciously pick up on that, and okay, let's leave this person alone and go ahead. And I think that's true with it. Like a lot of martial arts guys, that calmness, that kind of knowing that you can handle yourself, you can take care of yourself, is half the battle won already. Like before anything ever happens, people are
it's like an aura, that you have about you that, and I don't think it's anything you can pretend to have either. I mean, you got to really live it.
I remember there's a fantastic photo, and it's the exact thing that we're talking about. This guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Fedor Emelianenko, who is arguably one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, like heavyweight MMA fighter from Russia, who was small for a heavyweight, but like was undefeated for like 20 years or something like that, and only got defeated at the latter stage of his career. But there's a photo of him ringside at a big, massive fight, and the coaches and the audience all got in this big brawl, and he's just sitting back as guys are literally fighting in front of him with his beer, smiling and laughing away, like still drinking it as all the chairs and everything are going on. And it's just that,
But can you imagine someone like Conor McGregor sitting back and smiling while a fight breaks out, or would he be in the middle of it?
Well, that's the thing.
So are you a ruffian, or do you have good manners?
That's it. The martial arts of the thug. Yeah. There you go.
So, did you start your training in Vietnam?
Yes. Yeah. There was my first 3 years were with the Korean system.
Oh.
So between Taekwondo and Tang Soo.
Oh, I see.
So I started. There was an American soldier who was a black belt, and he started a class. That altercation actually happened when I'd only been in country for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then they shipped me north up to another city, from Nha Trang to Quy Nhon. And then when I got up there, there was a guy that just was talking to some of our guys one day and said he was going to start teaching a class. And I jumped on it. I just asked him when. Because, I'd always played sports. High school basketball was that and golf were my best and favorites. So I had been real active. I thought, well, surely I can do this. But anyway, I started doing it, and God, I felt like a klutz.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started right away. The first day we were doing like progressive Gedambarai, I don't remember what the Korean names are for those things, but anyway, I couldn't get my feet and hands coordinated together. I was used to playing with a ball,
Yeah.
So it was a bit different. And then I got to go home early. The war ended while I was there. So I got an early leave. And so they sent me to the Washington, D.C. area. I think I told you about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent 2 years in the D.C. area, in Virginia, though.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that was, that's where I started training officially. There it was just training with him. And actually, he got shipped out. And I think when they started talking about the war ending, they started moving people quickly.
Yeah.
But, it was good. I was learning from him, but some Korean soldiers actually took over the class, and all we did was kumite every night. I mean, from start to finish.
Just scrapping.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to figure out how to kick and punch. punching I was decent at, being a Westerner, but the kicking was awkward for me. And of course, they weren't there to hurt me, but they didn't mind hitting me either, But it was, they were civil about it,
Okay.
I mean, I took it like that. I'd played sports. I knew what it was about.
Were you a tough guy?
Not really.
No?
No, I was, I don't know. I guess I was tough in the way that I wasn't just going to give up on something.
Okay.
But, I had been in a couple of scraps, when I was little, actually more than a couple. But, I wouldn't run away.
Okay.
Once I might walk away before I got hit, but I would never leave when I got hit. If I got hit, somebody was going to get hit back. But I always I even felt like that in competition.
Yeah.
I tried to use the best control I could, but if I felt like I was getting, hit hard, then I just loaded up and went with it.
Nice.
I mean, not to get revenge, but just to get respect.
I think that's the way to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of competing in your career?
I was never really a good competitor. I had a few good years, but I was just never good at point fighting.
Yeah. We had a conversation on our walk about the sort of competition scene in America, and it seems like a bit like the Wild West in terms of rules, regulations, and stuff. Like you've got tournaments where people are doing katas to music and
oh yeah, it was crazy.
Pulling weapons out and
Yeah.
It seems a bit mashed together, so to speak. Do they have traditional and competitions?
Oh yeah,
like that?
sure.
Yeah.
When I first when I was in Hawaii, of course we had some guys that were really good, and out of 10 full-time instructors, we had like a little in-house instructors tournament.
Nice.
And but it was kata only. But you had to do a kion kata, and then you had to do your, tokui.
Yeah.
And so mine was pasai. We were wado back then. And, everybody had to do kion kata shodan, which is had the 4 basic blocks in it, and then you got scored on it, and then you got scored on your tokui. So we did one round of everybody doing kion kata, and then one round of the tokui.
Man, I don't think.
And I was like in the middle of the pack. My kata was always nice and strong, but never much to look at.
I don't know if we could handle a competition from morning training, guys. I don't think that would go down
That
too
would be
well.
great, man. I'd love it. Who would we get? So it would be the 4 instructors, Karen. Who else would compete?
Big Sean.
Tommy, Sean.
Yeah. Somebody's losing an eye in that.
That's probably why it would have to be just kata.
Yeah, just kata. Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, now kumite, I would have had a better chance of placing, but yeah, that was always true for me.
So when was it? How long had you been training before you moved to Hawaii?
I went in 1980, so I had started in 72. I started Wado, which was when I switched. I started November 72, so it's almost 1973.
Yeah.
But let's see, November 72. And in August of 1976, I started Japan International. And then in 80 is when they invited me. It only took me about 8 months, 7-8 months to get my black belt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Wado.
Oh, I see.
No, not with a taekwondo. Because, I had those years of experience, right?
Yeah. Oh,
But then
So they
yeah.
throw you straight in at that sort of like.
No,
okay,
I had started white belt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But,
You just fired through it, did you?
yeah, well, I was going 5 days a week from the very beginning.
Wow.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and, but, with experience, and, people always ask me, but I just say, just keep your head down and study what they're teaching.
Yeah.
Don't try to explain how you used to do it, because that's what I see from people from different systems. Well, we
Yeah.
don't do it that way,
Yeah.
or we did it this way, or just try to forget that and use what you can.
Yeah. I've never, when cross training in any other martial art or even different Shokan dojos, ever go, well, that's not the way we do it. Because I always see that as really like the most disrespectful thing you can do as a guest in somebody else's dojo.
Yeah.
You've decided to go and train, then do what you're told. Even if it's if it's wrong, if you fundamentally disagree with it, then you say us, and when they're not looking, just do what you normally do.
It's not as if, so even if there's a visiting instructor and you put up your hand and say, well, that's not the way we were taught, it's not like they're gonna say, oh, well, let me teach it the way you already know how to do it then.
Yeah. This doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you moved to Hawaii, and how, Scott told me once, I think before we met, I think it was just when he was giving us the backstory before we met each other in San Diego, but he was telling me how much work you were doing. How often were you teaching when you were in Hawaii? Like, what was the...
It's like a nightmare sometimes. Okay, I'll just give you a daily routine. So we had to be at the dojo at 6:30 in the morning.
Jesus!
The warm-up was from 6:30 to 7. And that include, back then, what we used to do was you had a kata week or a kumite week for classes. If it was a kata week, then you had to do 20 minutes of kumite with somebody in the dojo. So, all the instructors. And then we did 10 minutes of heavy bag regardless, every class. So we did heavy bag. There was like 3 heavy bags, and you just we had different drills going on at each bag. You move from one bag to the other. So it was a lot of contact with the bags.
Yeah.
And then, so class was over at 8 o'clock. Then we had a business meeting that went to 9. Then you had to go out and promote your schools, your dojos. So we would go to shopping centers and hand out flyers. This is back in the 80s, so no cell phones, no electronic information. We had a old mimeograph machine in the dojo, if you know what those are.
No.
No idea.
It's like a copier,
Yeah.
like a Xerox, but it's even older than that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so anyway, it was something that our schools had back in the 60s.
Wow.
But they had one in the dojo, and so they would run off their own flyers, because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we would do that, and so we'd work till about noon. Then we'd usually take a couple hours break, but schools were out there about 2:30. So then we taught 4 classes, 5. You had to teach anywhere between 4 to 6 classes between 2 and 6 o'clock. You had to get back to the dojo, make attendance calls, and then class was from 7 to 8, the evening class.
Yeah.
So we had another class in the evening. But that one not only had instructors, but other black belts and
Yeah.
brown and black belts as well. It's like an advanced class, and Hirano Sensei taught the class. Most of the time, every now and then we'd get a different instructor, but if he was there, he taught it.
Yeah.
And was Hirano in leading the sessions in the morning too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once in a while, if he took time off to do something, like sometimes he'd go to Japan or, but we would just take turns teaching as a rule. But there was another senior instructor who was a good friend of his. They grew up together in Japan, Tsuchiya Sensei. And he was incredible. His English wasn't very good, but his karate spoke for itself. It was good.
Yeah.
And anyway, I can tell you more about him later. But anyway, that was a typical day, and then it ended there. And every once in a while, like I know at one time, we had he moved the meetings from morning to evening, so we had the meeting after class at that evening. And then at one point, we were supposed to be focused on one technique. And every evening, there was a couple of us that would go back upstairs, and he would drill us for 30 minutes, just solid gyakuzuki.
Yeah.
The other guy was working on kizamizuki.
Yeah.
But we used a lot of suriashi, the double step,
Yeah.
where the back foot and moves, then the front foot,
Yeah.
and Wado, that's very common
Yeah.
movement, and it's in it's in a lot of the kata too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like for example, Heian Sandan. You know when you do this
Yeah.
at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's Pinan, of course, but it doesn't matter. But you shift your feet.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2.
than Yoriashi,
Rather
it's
than
that step.
Yoriashi, it's a Suriashi.
I think Scott Sensei calls it Yoseashi.
He may. I mean, I'm sure
I think
there.
there's different names for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is, and there are for.
So for the very last move of Heian Sandan, instead of shifting to the side in one motion, you kind of do a half step and then shift off.
Yeah.
You move one foot and then the other.
Exactly. It's almost like a basadai. You know,
Yes.
where you go 1, 2.
Yes.
You go 1, 2 this
Yeah.
way. That feeling.
Yeah.
But that's the way that was.
Uh-huh.
And even in Gion, it's the same way. You know, you go 1, 2.
Oh, that move, yeah, from the Manjigamai to the Kagezuki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just doing that because people can't see you demonstrating, David.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Clarify. But yeah, I didn't mean to get off on that. But yeah, different days were different classes. But I probably taught about 30 classes a week. So which was about, and we taught 6 days a week.
Oy.
So it averaged out to about 5 classes a day.
Yeah.
And were you a millionaire?
No.
That's a shame.
Absolutely not. But I tell you, my income went up when I moved away.
Oh yeah.
When you struck out on your own?
Yeah. But that was a plan all along. I mean, I never intended on living in Hawaii.
You were there 3 years, right?
I was. And, but I say it like that, but there were other people that left Hawaii and tried to go out on their own and they didn't make it at all. But that's kind of I don't know. I just believed in what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I believed in the dojo. And his big thing, Hirano Sensei, I'm talking about, was when we were teaching, was you've got to be interested in the outcome of your students. You know, that's got to be, your priority. That's what makes you a sensei, not your prowess as a karate person.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you probably have seen it yourself, but there are black belts that can't teach at all. They just don't make good teachers.
Yeah. No,
And
for sure.
a lot of people struggle with
Or
it.
they think that their job is to show off rather than to
Oh, yeah, that's
instruct.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One guy who I think who's really good at making sure that people are getting it is Richard Amos. He's very hands-on. Like in a huge course, like with 200 people, he'll single one person out and he'll get them to do it again and again, and he'll help them. And
Yeah, like I think we've talked about I've don't know if I've said it on here, but like I definitely see Richard as more of he's almost like a coach when he's on there.
Yeah.
Whereas like for example, Scott Sensei's style is he'll have a theme and he'll start it off basic and he'll gradually move it to a much more advanced level.
Yeah.
And there's a bit in the class for every level.
Yeah.
And the theme is the same throughout, but the ways of working that particular theme or that principle changes and flows.
Yeah, they definitely have a different method
Yeah.
of instruction. And I like both of them
Yeah,
a lot.
absolutely. Actually,
Richard, yeah, I mean,
Richard's one because you feel like
Yeah.
I'm the most important person in the room.
Oh,
as
yeah.
I'm training, like,
Yeah.
One time he was here in Dublin years ago, and we were just stepping back Aga UK, but it was the thing where when you move your feet, you unlock your arms, right? So you don't leave your arms there. Everything moves together as you step back. And he stood in front of me. There's about 100 people there, but he stood in front of me and he watched me do a few of them, and we were stepping back like 20 times.
Yeah.
It's like extreme Ido Kihon. So then he starts lunging at me every time I step back to block. He's like punching Jodan, and I'm like, oh, fucking trying to block it. And he's like, yo, shit.
yeah, that's exactly what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Unlock, Roo, unlock, unlock.
Yeah, he came to our dojo several times
Yeah.
there in Montevallo. Yeah, we had a really nice setup
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott made me feel good one time. I was the second time he showed up for our dojo. The first time our air conditioner went out, and he came in like June or July, and it was like 100 degrees outside. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's really 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's just really, really hot. And I didn't have any fans because I was expecting the air to be on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. I mean, by the time we finished the first class, he downed 2 bottles of water, and then he had to go back to teaching the other class. His gi was almost
See-through.
see-through. Yeah, it was so wet.
That's when you cry.
But my apartment was upstairs. I had built out like a little condominium
Did you
upstairs.
build your own place?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, I didn't. No, I didn't build the building.
Oh,
the
okay,
building
okay.
was built like around 1900.
Oh,
So it was in the historic district, but
like-
upstairs it was the whole building was 8,000 square feet.
nice.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I had more room than I knew what to. My office.
Wait, you don't
was-
have this place anymore?
No, I sold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
wait.
why I could afford to come over here.
Oh,
Actually, it is one reason.
but we have to get back on track with
Oh,
the
I'm
story.
sorry,
now.
I didn't
No,
mean
no,
that,
it's fine. This is
yeah.
all really, really good stuff. But where were we?
Harano Sensei.
Yeah,
give it a taste.
and then you left Hawaii. And when did you start Shotokan?
About 3 years after I got back home. In fact, Hirano Sensei was always real high on Mikami. Mikami Sensei.
Oh,
He's in New Orleans.
Okay.
And he and Kanazawa were the first graduates of the instructor's course. But anyway, I contacted him, told him who I was, what I was doing, and asked him, about working with their group. And he says, well, the best thing I can do is come up and work with your group. And I said, okay, let's arrange it. So we arranged it. He came up that year, and actually just a couple of months later.
Oh, right. So, but you were still teaching Wado.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, but Mikami is Shotokan.
right.
Okay.
And
so how
that's
did
when
that
I
work?
actually made the switch because I had cut my ties from the Hawaii group.
All right. What made you cut the ties completely? So you didn't try to establish your own dojo under the same banner. You
They
decided
didn't
to,
want anybody. They had some problems with people with the expansion.
Yeah.
They had tried it before and it wasn't working. So I mean, they wished me well. They said good luck, but can't be Japan International.
That's interesting. An organization that doesn't want to expand.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I mean,
How do you do it now?
they well, you got to remember. I mean, there were 5,000 members
right.
in
They were
the
just
dojo
happy to run their own
on Oahu.
operation.
Yeah, I mean, even people that have expanded can't usually claim 5,000 members.
Absolutely not.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's where it was when I left. And it was about that level the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
We had 10 full-time instructors. But anyway, let's go back. I started with Mikami, I want to say around 85. So I guess it was, 86 or 87. Because I got home in 83. And I did those Americanized tournaments for a few years.
Yeah.
That's where all the music and stuff
Yeah.
was. And it was just really frustrating.
What was your song choice? Did you have a song?
My song was "Oh My God." No, I avoided that division.
That scene, yeah.
But I think a lot of the guys liked it. I mean, I did. Back then, I was still doing Wado Kata, right? So I would do Kushanku,
Yeah.
which is, of course, Kankudai.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would switch it out, maybe do Pasai.
Nice.
And but then when I contacted Mikami Sensei, he was just super nice and super, interested.
Yeah.
And of course he knew Hirano Sensei. I don't know how they all know each other, but I didn't know all about this Shian Kai and all that, because Hirano never talked about it.
Yeah.
And actually, Mikami never talked about it. I just heard about it later.
Oh, they were all in a club for karate masters, for old school.
Yeah,
karate
yeah.
masters.
There's a group, because when I was in Seattle years later, Hirano Sensei was giving a speech about it. I mean, or not about that, but to that group.
Yeah.
He was talking to the group, and actually, it was on the dojo operations for the other senior
I
instructors.
see.
So when you switched, so making the switch from Wado to Shotokan, like I've trained in a couple Wado dojos in Japan, and there are some similarities, but also some massive differences in the way that training, like certain training aspects. How did you find the switch?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. Hirano Sensei had done a lot of changing himself, and he was very influenced by the JKA. Now, he still taught the kata as a Pinans, but he had made some absolute changes. We did at the time, of course, there's a lot of nekowashi, but he also used what they called nekowashi dai and nekowashi dachi sho.
Oh,
So sho would be, the normal cat foot stance, and then dai would be like kokutsu.
okay.
And so they use them both, or he did. And so we used both stances. And in the traditional Wado, I don't know that they're using both.
No.
Sometimes they'll use almost like a reverse forward stance. Like on Manjuke, they'll twist.
Oh yeah.
But I don't even think they have a rule about feet placement. That's what drives me insane. But anyway, they'll just twist back, but it's like a reverse forward stance.
Yeah, I've
as
seen
It's
opposed.
much more close to the original forms.
Okinawan stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And anyway, so there were some differences, and then there's, it's funny, but one of the hardest things it was for me to change was, this used to be soto uke.
Oh yeah.
And this was uchi uke. And that drove me and say, Richard, when he came up, he says, do your people not know? He says, no, the way he asked me was, are you not using Japanese to teach? And I said, yes. He says, well, they don't know. And I said, Sensei, this is soto. This is uchi. And
You were telling Richard which
yes,
is which.
yeah. And, well, I'm telling him how I taught it. I didn't
Oh, I
tell
see.
him. I didn't say you're wrong.
Yeah.
That wasn't my point. And he understood. I'm in the conversation. I brought it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I wasn't like in your face. You're wrong. and this
That would be cool too.
no, it wasn't like that at all. And then he looked at me and goes, well, actually that makes more sense. Because, you go Gedambarai, and we don't say Agi-uke, or we didn't in the Wado. We called this Jodan-uke,
Fair.
because it's the position, right?
Yeah.
So, but I really like the Shotokan because it talks about the movement.
Yeah.
Now this does say you're setting outside. It doesn't say the movements, but it's from the outside.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where this was going to the outside.
So they call it soto uke. Our uchi uke is soto uke in Wado because your hand is moving to the outside.
Yes.
Rather than starting from
Yeah.
the outside. Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and to me it's not a big deal, but it was a big deal because I struggled with it.
Yeah.
It had just always been like that. And then I finally, and in fact, Richard was the one that encouraged me to switch. He says, look, David, if you're going to do this, do it all the way. And I went, oh, okay.
You mean Shotokan all the way?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were kind of teaching some kind of mix up until
No. I was still using the terminology.
Oh, I see.
No, the kata, everything. And but when you're doing karate, Scott and I have talked about this a little bit too. But when you're teaching movement, it really doesn't matter
No,
if
of
it's
course not.
Shotokan or Wado, if the movement is correct. You know, because our blocks were all face level.
It's like the way Angus Young from AC/DC. He doesn't know the names of any chords he's playing.
Oh yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
And when I was my dad was my first sensei, and I think he learned from Anoida a lot, but also in South Africa, none of his instructors were Japanese, and I think he'd come up with English terms for a lot of stuff. So I never heard him say Zenkutsudachi. He said front stance, back stance. He called Kibadachi. He generally used the Japanese names for all the blocks, but a lot of stuff he just used the English terms. So, and I think that even when he was training with Anoida, he just couldn't understand anything the guy was saying because he just grumbled so much. So it was, I think, Ota as well. So didn't know the Japanese terms, and neither did I. So when I first started training with Scott, and he's like, "Okay, Hidari Getabarai Zenkutsudachi," and I was like, "What the fuck was it? What are we doing?"
It is hard, because even when Richard was there, the guys they'd all look at each other like, "What do you say?" He's got that British accent, and Scott's is I thought even more difficult to understand.
You should see the looks I get when I come over and teach.
Yeah,
that's all right. But most of them love it. They just like the idea of getting to be with someone from somewhere else that is interested in the same things that they're interested
Yeah, for sure.
in, and it's all good, Actually, Hirano Sensei taught mostly in English.
Yeah.
All of his counting was in English. And, I started counting in Japanese because people wanted to learn. They were like,
Yeah.
It's like having that special language which makes the activity a little more special.
It gives it a little character or, makes it nice.
That's it.
Using French terms in a ballet class.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I have a lady the little boy's in my class. In fact, he's probably going to be my next black belt.
Nice.
He's first cue, but he's only 12, and he's a little guy. And but he's struggling. But the mom was talking about that. She's a Pilates teacher, and or coach or whatever it is, and but she was in ballet all of her youth, and she said that that's the way it's done in ballet.
Exactly.
So I thought, well, that's good. So it's not just the Japanese that are doing that. But Mikami did everything in Japanese, and then you just had to know.
Yeah.
And in fact, I want to say when I took my Nidan exam, they only used Japanese terminology, and I was very concerned about doing it correctly, but I passed. Actually, that was probably some of the best sparring I had done was on the exam. And the exam is pretty much what Scott does, but a little different. And but I had to do Jiu Kumite.
Oh, right, yeah.
Of course,
And Okazaki was there, the one that just died out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And he was there. And on the very first move, this guy just charged me and threw a round kick. And I caught his leg and swept his foot out from under him. Yeah, it was gorgeous. And, they just went, "Yummy!" And he was, of course, laying in the floor flat.
Right away, writing past it.
It was really good. And when I came off the floor, there were guys on the, there was a group of guys that were testing for Yondan. And when I left the floor, they were like, "Good job."
Sweet.
They were like, because before they knew who I was. That's David Pope, but I don't think really give a rip. But then I finally got some real, confirmation from them. But the one guy was really good. I mean, he had won first place in kata, and I understood that he used to be great at kumite until somebody broke his jaw and he had his jaw wired together.
Yeah.
But when he sparred after my group got through, because I don't think anybody was. We were Shodans going for Nidan. There was like 10 guys testing, and then in their group there was only like three people testing, and only one passed, and it was him, this guy Pat Jennings. And on the very first move, he just made one smooth movement forward, and when he hit that guy with the Gyakuzuki, I mean, it just echoed through the gym. I thought, holy shit. I said, he liked my sparring. Oh, man. I mean, but it was just, I mean, well, I can't say what I was going to say, but it was good.
You can say what you want to say.
No, I can't.
Oh, trust me, you can say whatever you want.
Nobody listens.
No censorship here.
We don't bleep anything on this podcast.
No.
But it was really good.
So,
I mean,
sorry, Mikami, was that the name of
Yeah.
that old school guy? So he and Okazaki were working together. Is
Oh,
that
yes.
Right? ITKF, is that the one?
ISKF.
Sorry, ISKF.
Yeah.
Right, ISKF. And you were with that group for a long time, were you?
5 years, 4
okay.
years.
Okay. And
Yeah, I eventually went back to Wado again.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they asked me to, And, interestingly enough, the reason I went back was I just could not justify having to pay them a lot of my earnings back.
Yeah.
What I was getting. I couldn't grade my own students. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And I just didn't, I hadn't been brought up like that in the karate world.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get it.
Yeah, they lose, as far as I've heard, those big Japanese organizations lose a lot of people just by demanding too much money and
Yeah.
surrendering
It's exactly
too much
why I
power.
left Richard too.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and I told Richard, I said, I'm leaving because it's business.
So what is it about the HDKI then that's keeping you happy in comparison to these organisations that you've been with in the past?
Scott set it up right.
Yeah.
If I choose to be a member of the dojo, I pay a fee. To be honest, I think he could charge more than it'd be worth it, for the dojos.
Yeah.
Because it's a dojo choice. It's not the student's choice. The students should not be being charged for being part of the HDKI.
Because as far as they're concerned, they're just part of their dojo, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Few enough of them care.
So that's the instructor's responsibility. He should pay the fee. And, Scott, it's $150, right? For the fee
For
for,
a
the
year,
country?
right?
Yeah.
Oh, for
For the whole country.
Yeah. And
But-
you just split that between you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy
Like
because in the States,
$10, $8 or $10 each.
well, it used to, it was like $25 the first year, $20 the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More,
the bigger you get, the less you pay. Like.
Yeah, but, I think just let each state pay. Because one person's in charge, just let them pay. And if they want to collect a little bit from the other guys, fine. But, to coordinate that seems to be more trouble than the 150. The first year we did it, I paid the 150.
Yeah.
And I just told everybody, send me $25 when you can.
Yeah, I think, I don't think well, I don't know much about how the HDKI is run, but clearly the registration for each country, their affiliation, it's like a token payment, really.
That's all it is.
It's not, yeah. It's symbolic or whatever, a gesture, yeah.
Well, it's a commitment, and Scott's using the money in a very effective. He's very open and honest about that. That money's going towards this sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. How does the way Scott set up help you out? So you've got the membership fee to the HDKI is very good for the members and for the dojos and such. and country affiliates. But what is it particularly that you enjoy about it? The way it's set up, is it the political setup? How there isn't really that kind of top down scenario? How it's kind of like everyone's kind of equal, or
Equality is an interesting thing. I think first, if you look at the way that all the, especially from my experience of, how long I've been involved with karate and the different organizations, Scott, like he does everything, seems to be, really thought this through well. What the dojos pay is on the dojo itself, not the students of the dojo. So the students are still focused on what is going on at their dojo, and they're not concerned about paying fees to an organization that they have no clue who these people are. And even if they know their name, it's not, it's like, why, And I think Scott gets that. Scott understands all of that. And so the fee is for the instructors, because instructors are also looking for credibility, but they want real credibility, and which means good karate, and like for example examinations. It's not little Johnny competed so he gets a participation award. Mm-hmm. That's not how you get your ranking.
Yeah.
We don't do it at the Q grade level, so we don't expect it at the Don grade level either. And and for me in particular, I am a professional karate instructor. So I look at karate, Scott probably doesn't like this word too much, capitalistic way. Okay. But it is, and it's almost like kumite, the survival of the fittest, but that doesn't mean, a lot of people, I think, get the wrong impression. But if you don't service your people appropriately, then they're not going to stay with you. Mm. And if you do, then they will. And you can't tell me somebody that's got 500, 600, 700 students is not taking care of their folks.
So by capitalistic, do you mean following through on the commitments and the promises you make to?
Yes, exactly. Okay. They're getting value for what they're paying for.
Yeah.
They see a perceived value. If something costs $50, that could be dirt cheap, or it could be way too much.
That's very interesting, because Scott Sensei has said that when he I think what did he call it, like what do you call it when you establish a country, constitution. Yeah, when he wrote the constitution for the HDKI, he was like, I feel like I've written the Communist Manifesto of karate. But David Sensei sees it as very capitalistic. So
there you go.
Yeah, but and that's probably not a good word, because it gets construed.
Yeah, but we know what you mean.
But the way I see it is that anybody that gives more value than they're asking for something in return, mm-hmm. then the students are the beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. I get it out. So again. That, to me, that's what's the most important, and that's what you see. There are schools, we talked about this the other night, that are charging $250 a month.
Yeah.
And most people are going to say that's ridiculous, that's crazy. But you don't know what all the benefits are of that training. Exam fees may be included, uniforms included. Scott said something about those things. Yeah. And so maybe it's not such a bad deal. Can everybody afford it? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But if they are staying full, then somebody's approving of what they're getting.
Yeah.
We may not like their karate or what they're teaching, but and I still feel the same way about that. But
yeah, If you want to do it full time, it has to be a viable business.
That's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, how else are you going to teach?
Yeah.
You know, Hirano Sensei gave me one piece of advice that I really remember, and it was pretty basic. If they're not coming, you can't teach them.
That's it.
So you got to keep them involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can't keep them involved, you can't keep. So if you're charging too much, they're going to quit coming. If you can balance your what is acceptable for the area and the value that you're giving them, with instruction and the way you treat them in coming to class, then you should be in good shape.
Excellent.
Yeah. So one last thing before we wrap up,
Okay.
where we're going to do our fails of the week in a second, but just you say, Hirano says to give you a piece of advice. You have such a wealth of experience in terms of organizations, instead of training, in terms of different karate styles. If you could give one piece of karate advice to the people out there listening, to us too, sitting here beside you, what advice would you give? What's the pearl of wisdom you're going to drop for us?
Oh my gosh! You really
Take
put
as
me
long
on-
as you want because we can edit it.
put me on the spot here. Just be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, about everything. I mean, about your ability, about what you want out of something,
Yeah. Honesty.
Nice. Being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking about that.
I
for a
honestly
while.
think I'm amazing.
That's not easy sometimes,
To
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Tough
you
thing.
you let other people's opinions of you kind of weigh you down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Or blow you up. Depends. Surround yourself with
Yeah.
yes
Yeah.
men.
With sycophants.
Sycophants.
I don't have any of those around me.
None of us do.
One every now and then doesn't hurt anything,
I know.
Boost your ego a little bit.
Dojo mammies are my main sycophants.
That's it, exactly.
You're absolutely brilliant.
You're great
with
with the kids.
Oh,
You're great with the kids.
And he's loving the classes now, and you're fantastic. And the way you did on Zoom and everything, you were brilliant.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You walk about like I'm the king of the world.
that's right. Oh, it goes on all the time.
Brilliant.
More dojo mammies in this world like that.
Okay, well, I think it's that time.
It is that time.
It's time for a fail of the week.
All right.
So
Who's going first? Will we go grade order?
we'll go. David says you have to get your first one out there. You done a spectacular fail of the week.
I sure did.
It's a sin in this country. So tell the people what you done.
All right. Well, I went out to get beer last night, and I got it. The problem with it was non-alcoholic beer.
Sure did St. Patrick himself come out the ground and give you a telling off.
Oh, goodness.
It was very funny. We were having a wee post-training drink, to welcome David into Dublin and stuff, and we're all very excited. And we had ordered food, we had our drinks ready, and David was very excited. Came in from the shops with his beer, and he's like, "I got this one, and I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it looks nice." And da da da. Don't know what you all like to drink. And we looked at it, and we're like, "You bought the only alcohol-free beer available in the whole country."
Who spotted it?
Scott said it.
When he said it, I thought he was joking. I flipped it around and looked.
Such a shame.
But that is a huge fail.
So you took it back and got your
I
money
did
back.
take it back, and we got Guinness.
We got Guinness.
But we know.
That's what you get for not just getting Guinness as you're drinking Ireland. You never go wrong with the Guinness.
Yeah, I was trying to get something different.
And
I did.
At your level of
I have
experience,
never,
Dave
ever
Sensei.
bought alcoholic beer, a non-alcoholic beer before.
Well, you have now, and
I have
we're all
now.
going to remember it.
I can strike that one off my list.
My fail this week happened Tuesday morning training. We were doing Tabata, and I think it was the last Tabata set that we'd done, and we were just we were doing the Kazamazuki Yakuzuki switch stance, Kazamazuki Yakuzuki, and jumping up and down the dojo, and I felt the twinge go in my left calf. This is the second time this has happened, but I had a stabbing pain in my calf, and finished the set, obviously, because toxic masculinity demands that I tough it out. And then I tried to do something else after, and I was like, no, my calf's went, it's torn. And I went to the physio today, and they said, yep, you've got a wee tear in your calf, you need to rest. It can take up to 6 weeks to heal. But you'll be able to start like training lightly and stuff after a few days rest. You'll be able to still move about, but it probably won't be fully healed for 6 weeks. So
that happened on Tuesday, right?
That happened on Tuesday.
But you came into the dojo on Wednesday, and you were kind of hobbling along while we were training.
Yeah.
And then,
like an idiot.
and then Karen noticed first. He looked at your calf and he was like, "There's a fucking hole in it.
I know.
There's like
Christ.
a depression where the muscle has ripped apart, and you can see."
Yeah.
And you were, you foolish boy.
I was very, very, very angry because I love my calves, man. My calves got really big, muscular calves, and then there's just a big chunk missing.
The important thing is, does your girlfriend like it?
Molly loves
Does
the
she?
calves.
Oh, she does. Okay, good.
But yeah, so that's me. I have to take it easy and train. And the folks who have listened to me talk about training until the cows go home,
Till the calves come home. Wait.
Yes. It's probably the hardest thing to do is to not train hard.
You should be more like me, man. When I have a suggestion of an injury, I have to rest. I have to rest, guys. Injured.
So, even already, even teaching that night, even though it was still sore, I was still, trying to ping away and stuff and do it, and I'm just like an idiot. It's stupid. It is stupid. It's silly, and this is the first time I ever went to a physio in my life. For something that's a little bit sore. I know it's weird, but that's the first time they said, listen, 6 weeks till it's properly, can take up to 6 weeks. You'll probably feel better, in a couple of days. Just make sure that you don't overdo it. You can still train lightly, but take it easy. So, yeah, that's my fail. Depressing fail.
Okay, my turn. My fail of the week. I missed training on Thursday.
That's not like you.
On Thursday morning. Shut up.
Yeah, it's usually Tuesday or Wednesday.
David Sensei, no. That was quite a burn.
You were doing so well, though.
I know, and I am
so
doing well.
well.
I am doing well. Yeah. And the problem is, the reason I missed training... Look, he's very pleased with himself. I missed training on Thursday morning because Wednesday night, I was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with the fucking fire alarm in the building, the whole apartment building, going off. And it was so loud, and... for the first minute, I thought it was still in my dream, and I didn't understand why my eyes are open, but I could still hear the alarm. And then then I realized it was happening in real life, and I got up and I got dressed and I was getting ready to evacuate. But first, I thought the alarm was in my flat. So I was ripping...
destroy the flat?
Yeah, I ripped the smoke alarm off the ceiling. Because I couldn't... I was so tired, I was like, you have to twist it this way a little bit and then unhook the thing and pull it off. So I just fucking ripped the thing off. And then I realised the alarm was going off in the whole building, not just my apartment. So I was getting ready to evacuate, and I was like, do I take my guitars? Which ones do I take?
Wait, so you thought...
Fuck off.
The black belt? I never
thought of grabbing my belt.
The gift from Scott Sensei himself?
In fairness, the one that Scott Sensei gave me when I got my black belt, when I passed my grading, I lost that one 4 years ago. I lost that one. So he got me, a replica.
Yeah.
Actually, my old one had a WTKO logo on it.
Yeah.
So he got me an HDKI one, but I had to pay him for it.
Oh.
You don't get it twice.
Yes, I wouldn't bother with that.
But anyway, yeah, so then I was grabbing my guitar and I was just about to evacuate the building and the alarm went off, but I was rattled. It was dramatic.
Oh,
I was scared, and it's not just because I was worried of the place burning down because I wasn't feared for my life or my possessions. I was just so rattled by the experience. So it took me hours to get back to sleep, and I wasn't able to get up for training in the morning. Yeah. I need my sleep.
He needs his sleep. Well, that's a fail.
Yeah, big fail.
Fail. Don't again, it's as bad as buying non-alcoholic beer. That's just, disgraceful.
That's an 8th Dan fail.
It's disgraceful. You may be a soldier.
Well, I did have wine now. We have to remember, I did have a bottle
To be
of
fair,
wine.
he didn't touch the stuff.
Oh yeah, he didn't crack any of those non-alcoholic beers. No.
He was disgusted with himself.
Well, we took it back.
Took it back and
Got some real beer.
Anyway, folks, David Sensei, I have to say this was an absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know your story. Fantastic. I can't wait to learn more as the weeks go on that you're here. It's a pleasure having you. Pleasure talking to you. Good people, I hope you enjoyed it too.
Thank
Deep
you. Thank you.
bows and ooses
Os.
to everyone.
Oh.